Hey, good morning, everyone. Let me start it in English because this first block we have lots of international guests here and international speaker. My name is Tomek Kołodziejczuk. Next to me is Kasia Szczypska, and we are really pleased to welcome you at the 5th Weekend of Capitalism 2023. Weekend Kapitalizmu uważam za otwarty. Słuchajcie, look, this is like I'm super proud. I cannot even see your faces if you're smiling or not because there is so much light on my face. But this event is growing. Every year there is more and more of us. There is more and more attractions. This year we have Shark Tanks, we have Liber Talks, we have Bitcoin Film Fest. We will have concerts here. So I hope you will have a really great 2 days and the previous 2 days, some of you, of celebration that we exist, that there is lots of people, projects, organizations who share the same ideas as you. Ideas of independence, especially from government, sovereignty, liberty, honesty. This is what we are about. We are showing people that capitalism is not I don't take capitalism as a social or political system. It's a natural state of human interaction, of voluntary interaction between human beings, and whatever we put on top of that, whether it is socialism or statism, this is our enemy. Within capitalism, we are not trying to have enemies on the right or on the left. It's not between capitalism and socialism. It's between free individuals and coercion, which we are against. So we are trying to make a good PR, good image of capitalism. You all probably already know our nice logo of this dollar with hands helping each other, and our motto, Dobro Wolność, which is voluntarism in English. We try to show that capitalism is about voluntary interactions and honesty and independence. So I'm really glad you guys are here. Maybe Kasia, you'd like to say something?
Welcome. We are very happy to have you here. The Weekend of Capitalism for us is not just a conference, a regular conference. It's also about the integration of our community. So please take all the opportunity you can to network and get to know each other. And I just wanted to thanks for all of the volunteers, because this is a event that is organized with a lot of sleepless night, which you can spot glancing at Tomek. And I think the spontaneous order is ruling the show. So in case any inconveniences occur, just please stay with us and have fun. We are very happy.
There is lots of technical info that you should know. There is some, for example, photo competition. So if you just take the best pictures you can from this event, and the best pictures which are tagged Weekend Kapitalizmu or Bitcoin Film Fest at Twitter, Instagram, or Nostr, the best pictures will be chosen and awarded tomorrow in the evening after Bitcoin Film Fest. So there is also chat on Telegram Weekend Kapitalizmu.pl and Telegram BitcoinFilmFest.com. There is also a little poll. There will be a lottery, but all this technical stuff I will be trying to sell you later, because now it's time for our opening speech for our guests. We are very honored to present our neighbor who loves Poland, a historian and a sociologist, but also a very successful entrepreneur who recently did a little research on public opinion on capitalism, how it is in Poland, how people view free market and individualism, and he will share the insights with you. So please let me welcome our honored guest, Dr. Rainer Zitelmann.
First of all, congratulations to this name, Weekend of Capitalism, because I remember, I think I was 1 year ago, I was also in Warsaw on a libertarian conference, and almost no one, with the exception of me, used the word capitalism, because capitalism is a dirty word for a lot of people. But I think we should be proud to be pro-capitalism. And today I want to speak about my new book that is published in 30 countries all over the world, and I promised I will go to each of these 30 countries, and it will be published in summer also in Poland. If people ask me, I have a lot of interviews with TV, newspapers, sometimes I have only 20 or 30 minutes, seconds time to explain why I have this t-shirt, I love capitalism. Unfortunately, I forgot it. I promise next time when I will be here in 2 years, I will be here with my t-shirt, I love capitalism. And why? It's very easy. Because 200 years ago, 90% of the worldwide population lived in extreme poverty. 90%. Today, it's less than 10%. I think it's amazing. And poverty at this time, 200 years ago, meant something totally different what it means today. Here you have the facts. It's estimated that 200 years ago, even in England and France, what were the wealthiest nations at this time, 20% of the population had not enough energy only for slow walking, and so they were condemned, most of them, for a life of begging. This was what meant poverty 200 years ago before capitalism. And when you hear the word famine, a lot of people, or most of people, of course, think about Africa, but it's not true, because 80% of the victims of famines in 20th century died in socialist China and in socialist Soviet Union. Even in the end of the 50s, in China, 45 million people died as a result of the biggest socialist experiment in history, Mao's so-called Great Leap Forward. And when I have my lectures, whether it's in Asia, in Latin America, United States, or Europe, I ask people always, who have heard at school about this biggest socialist experiment, about the Great Leap Forward, where 45 million people died? And so I want to ask also you, who have heard about this at school? These are very few people, more than in some other countries, but whether I speak to 30 people, to 300 or to 3,000, it's always a very small minority who raise their hands because people haven't heard about this at school. They have heard a lot about the evils of capitalism, but not about the evils of socialism. Of course, some people will tell us, yes, but inequality is rising, the so-called gap between the rich and the poor. You can read almost every day in newspapers about it. What's about inequality? To be honest, I don't care about inequality. I care about poverty. Poverty is the real problem. Here you have the numbers, example from China. I spoke about the end of the 50s where 45 million people died, but even in 1981, 88% of the Chinese population lived in extreme poverty, 88%. And then they started with pro-market reforms, introduced private property, and what happened, you see, today there's only less than 1% people living in extreme poverty in China. This is not only in China. They call themselves socialists, but in reality, of course, this is not a pure capitalist country. It's a mixture. It's a dictatorship on the one hand, political, but in the economy it's a mixed system between capitalism and socialism. But the progress in the last decades in China was not because of the state, but it was in spite of the state. This is what my friend Wang Chang from Beijing University tells me always. And this is the same story all over the world. Last year I've been in Vietnam. Vietnam was the poorest country in the world, even in the beginning of the 90s. They had a terrible war, then they had the terrible planned economy. It was the poorest country in the world. And then they started introducing private property, pro-market reforms. They called them Doi Mo reforms. Today they call themselves socialist and with the Communist Party. But I've been there. I was invited to 4 different universities in Vietnam. It's harder to find Marxists in Vietnam than in Europe, in Germany or in the United States, because they know what socialism means. And the same story there. 80% of the population living in extreme poverty in the beginning of the 90s, and today it's less than 5%. And if I would ask people in Vietnam, in China, or hopefully the same in Poland, do you like to go back to the 70s, maybe? Because people were more equal. I think it's only a minority. I don't know exactly how it will be in Poland, but I know it's only a minority who will say, let's go back to the 70s now because we were more equal. Because inequality or equality is not the most important thing. Poverty, the fight against poverty. And you see it's a very positive development all over the world. Here you see the numbers. In the 80s, there were more than 30% of the worldwide population living in poverty, extreme poverty. Today it's only 9%. And at the same time, the number of billionaires increased. There were only 500 billionaires in the beginning of the 2000s. Today we have 2,700 billionaires all over the world. Why is this important? It's important because anti-capitalists, they believe in the zero-sum belief. What does it mean? Zero-sum belief, it means they believe that some people, that people are only poor because the rich people have stolen it or have taken away. And that it is absolutely nonsense. You can see it in this graph. How could it be possible that poor people are poor because the rich have taken it away from them, when at the same time the number of poor people decreased and the number of rich people increased? It's not possible. Zero-sum belief is nonsense. This is a very important topic, especially a lot of young people speak about it today. Environmental destruction, climate change. And I read the new book from the Swedish climate change activist Greta Thunberg. There were no solutions for climate change. The only thing I could read to abolish capitalism and all the suggestions in the book, in reality, she didn't use the word, but in reality it means planned economy. And in Germany we have now a book, a bestseller about capitalism. Unfortunately, it's not my book. It's a book with the title, The End of Capitalism. And the author of the book, she tells us we should introduce a planned economy in Germany. We should have ration cards in Germany. No one should be allowed to eat more than 2,500 calories a day. No one should be allowed to drive a car. No one should be allowed to fly. And we should stop building new houses. We should everything distribute more equally to others. So their idea is to solve the problem of climate change or environmental destruction with a planned economy. But you see here, who knows the index of economic freedom? Who have heard about it in the room? So a lot of you. You can find the index of economic freedom, by the way, on the internet. The last one was published a few weeks ago. It's 500 pages. You can get it for free. And it's a ranking, I call it the capitalism scale, how economically free are different countries. And then there's another index. It's the Environmental Performance Index from Yale University. And if you compare both, you see here on the screen that the most economically free countries have the best environmental standards, and the least economically free countries have the worst standards. And we know this from history, that planned economy didn't solve problems with environmental destruction, but caused much more problems even than in capitalism. Here you see, comparing East-West Germany. I think it's a good thing to compare East and West Germany because the same country, the same culture, the same people, the same language, only a different economic system. And look what happened there. The CO2 emissions in East Germany were 3 times higher, adjusted to GDP, than in West Germany. This is the reality. Climate change and a planned economy. And this was not only with CO2 emissions. Here you can see other airborne pollutants, like, for example, sulfur dioxide, 10 times higher in East Germany than in West Germany. Then you hear very often the argument, yes, I understand, planned economy can solve things, but the problem is capitalism means growth, and the resources of our planet are limited, and because of this, unlimited growth is not possible. This is something that you hear very often. But growth doesn't mean always that you have to need more resources. It's true, it was reality until the 70s that there was a very close connection between GDP growth on the one hand and CO2 emissions on the other hand, and spending of resources. But now we live in a different time. Here I have the example from the iPhone. These are not all the devices. Someone counted there were more than 30 devices that you have today in the iPhone, not only the telephone and the camcorder and the camera and all these devices. And it doesn't mean to spend more resources, but less resources. And this is the same with a lot of other things. When I was young, I loved music, and I had a lot of these LPs. The older ones of you know this LPs. Later on, there were the smaller CDs, and today my girlfriend, who's much younger than me, laughs at me why I already buy CDs, because she put it, maybe Spotify or whatever, on the internet. And even with books, I haven't counted them, maybe 6,000 or 7,000 books at my home. But my father, in spite of the fact that he's 94 years old now, he's more up to date than me because he don't use any more books. He has his Kindle, and so he spends less resources, and there are a lot of other examples. It's not as easy as it sounds when people tell you that unlimited growth is not possible because the resources are limited. And then there's a very popular argument about capitalism. This is capitalism is dominated by the rich. They set the political agenda. And of course, I took the best example for this, United States. Everyone knows in the United States, you have to have a lot of money to become president of the United States, but it's not as easy that you can buy political power only with money. Otherwise, there would have been never President Donald Trump in the United States. Yes, he raised 600 million, but as of September 2016, not a single Fortune 100 CEO had donated to Trump's campaign. And you see, Hillary Clinton, she raised twice as much as Donald Trump, but Trump won and not Clinton. And we wouldn't have a President Joe Biden today, but this would be the President of the United States if it is possible so easily to buy political power with money, because when he ran for president, or wanted to run for president of the United States, he was the 8th richest man in the world with a net worth of $62 billion. And he spent $1 billion in only 3 months. The result, almost nothing, zero. Joe Biden, who was much, much poorer than him, became president, and not Michael Bloomberg that you see on the picture there. And I have a lot of facts in my book that prove that there were just 2 out of 17 elections in the past 64 years in which unequal campaign spending in the United States was a decisive factor. And then there's another argument I hear very often. Yes, but capitalism leads to monopolies. Think about Google, think about Apple, think about Facebook. Yes, it's true. Capitalism can lead to monopolies. But it's also true, capitalism destroys monopolies. And people think always monopolies are so powerful, only the state, maybe with antitrust legislation, you can do something against monopolies. This is wrong. The biggest enemies of monopolies is capitalism, is competition. And they are not so powerful as it seems. Look here, this is the headline from 2007. Will MySpace ever lose its monopoly? sometimes I have here this lecture with young people, and they don't know, what's MySpace? I haven't heard about it. Or then 1 year later, this was the cover of Forbes magazine, Nokia. Who can ever catch the cell phone king, the monopoly of Nokia? Who has a Nokia iPhone here today in this room? Two of you. Okay, who can ever catch the cell phone king? This was Nokia, the never-ending monopoly. Or Xerox. Even today, you say sometimes in the United States to Xerox something to make a photocopy. Yes, and it's true. The market share was 95%. Today, it's 2%. People couldn't imagine at this time that the monopoly will be destroyed, not by the government, not by antitrust legislation, no, by capitalism, by competition. Or here, Kodak. Their market share in the United States was 90%. At the film market, 85% at the camera market. And they get bankrupt because they didn't understand the shift to digital cameras. So there are so many examples. In my book, you find much, much more examples for this. Now, you are the first here in Poland to get some results. You can find them in detail in my book that will be published in summer. A survey about capitalism. This is the biggest survey about the image of capitalism ever done. And it cost me a lot of money because I did it in 34 different countries. I had to spend 14,000 euros for every country. So it was very expensive. And it was not only one question. There were some polls before with only with one question, like, do you like capitalism or not? But this makes no sense because there are a lot of people, for them, capitalism is a dirty word. It has a negative connotation. And I wanted to find out how much has it to do with the word and how much has it to do for what the word stands for. And so, for this reason, first we asked our respondents a couple of questions without using the word capitalism, only with statements about more state and more market statements like this. These are the results for Poland. There are some pro-market statements, like who support the statement, I think private business alone should decide what products to manufacture and what prices to charge for them. The state should not be involved in that pro-free market. Or the other one who says, for example, the state should set the prices for rent and food and should set minimum and maximum wages, otherwise the system is socially unfair. In some countries, 70 or 80% of the population supported this statement. In Poland, it was only 19%. And I know you will be surprised because in most countries, people think we are the most anti-capitalist country because there you see so much anti-capitalist. But it's not true for Poland. We have the same questionnaire in all countries, the same polling institutes, one of the best polling institutes in the world, Ipsos Mori, with the same methodology. And the result, I show you now the result when we didn't use the word capitalism. Here, this is the ranking attitude toward economic freedom. And you see, it comes to your surprise, the winner is Poland, #1. The winner is Poland. Maybe it comes to your surprise, but it's true. The same questions in all these 34 countries. This is the pro- and anti-capitalism coefficient. You see here the most pro-capitalist countries: Poland, United States, Czech Republic, South Korea, Japan, Argentina, and Sweden. These are the most pro-capitalist countries in the world. And in the end, you see countries like France, for example, who are here, Netherlands, Turkey, and Russia. I understand. If this would be capitalism, what there is in Russia, I would be anti-capitalist #1. But forget it. This is not the capitalism what's there in Russia. This is a kleptocracy what is there. This has nothing to do with capitalism. But people believe it in Russia, and so they are against capitalism. And then, in addition, to these questions. You know, I told you the first set of questions were without using the word capitalism. And then we asked other questions where we used the word capitalism. For example, this is an association test. We asked people, what do you think if you hear the word capitalism? Positive and negative words. And you see in Poland a lot of positive, of course, also negative things. 72% wide range of goods, progress, innovation. But of course also greed, then freedom, corruption was the last one. In other countries it was much more negative. And then we had 18 other questions about capitalism. For example, what do you think the statement, do you support the statement capitalism means economic freedom? Or capitalism has improved conditions for ordinary people in many countries. And we had also a lot of negative statements. And then we put all these 34 statements together. As mentioned before, this was the most detailed, biggest survey about image of capitalism all over the world. And now if we put all together, it's similar but not identical with the other graphic, because the first graph was only about the 6 statements. This is about all 34 statements. And there you see, again, Poland #1, followed by United States, South Korea, Japan. Maybe you wonder about Nigeria there. But in Nigeria, people, they laugh when they hear capitalism. They have positive associations. They live in poverty, and if they hear capitalism, they think about Europe and United States. And even in Vietnam, capitalism has a very positive connotation for a lot of people. So this is the result of our survey. You find it in more details in my book that is published now in the United States, UK, and a lot of other countries, and in summer also here in Polish language. And here you see the effect of using the word capitalism. Of course, support for capitalism increases if we don't use the word in most countries, also in Poland. If we don't use the word, but I tell you, use the word. Go on, please promise me something. Never change the name of this capitalism weekend, because it's not about the word. Of course, the word has an effect, as you see here. But do you remember, even if we didn't use the word, there was not a big difference. There were only 7 countries in the world pro-free market. Unfortunately, it's not only about the word, it's about what the word stands for. And then we confronted our respondents with 2 typical conspiracy theory statements. And because my hypothesis was that anti-capitalists are conspiracy theorists. And it's true. Here, this graphic, the difference between countries is not important, but important is the difference between the left dark bar and the right bright bar. The left bar is anti-capitalists and the right bar is the pro-capitalists. And you see, in 33 out of 34 different countries, anti-capitalists tend more to conspiracy theory than pro-capitalists, because for them, the super rich and the lobbyists and all this are the dark forces behind it. So I call anti-capitalist people, this is a form of conspiracy theory. So here I have some books. Before I tell you more about the books, I think we have a short trailer, and you are the first to see them, because this is about my next film. Where's Tomasz here? Please go up, Tomasz. Where are you? Come here, Tomasz. Please. I think here are a lot of Tomasz in my book. But the guy I made the film with him, is not here? Ah, he's up there. Oh, sorry, he's up there. Thank you, Tomasz. And now you see my film that will be in a few months, and you're the first one to see a little bit out of this.
Taka świadomość, że komunizm jest jednym wielkim oszustwem.
Louder.
Jak się wejdzie już na tą ścieżkę socjalizmu, to już nie ma od niej odwrotu. Aż do kryzysu, totalnego kryzysu ekonomicznego.
Oni udają, że nam płacą, a my udajemy, że pracujemy.
W latach 80-81 kartki były na wszystko.
4 godziny stałem, żeby kupić litr mleka i pół bochenka chleba.
It was 1990 when the real revolution took place.
Radical program, stabilization, liberalization is absolutely necessary.
It opened the economy, empowered its people, and changed the country forever. Okay, this was only 1 minute, but thank you very much, Tomasz. We spent here in Poland a week. It was very cold, but it was a great experience, and it will be a film to show people the difference between socialism and what happened here in Poland. Very successful to transfer from a socialist to a capitalist country. I know that now with the government here, they go in the different direction. More state, less free market, against nationalization and all this stuff. And so it's very important that people in Poland don't forget why you became so successful. I read a book that Poland is Europe's growth champion in the last 25 years. But you shouldn't forget, and I think you know, but you should tell it to everyone else. The reason was capitalism that we are better off now. Don't forget it. The reason was less state, more market. And if we go now in a different direction, more state, less market, we will go back to more poverty and not to less poverty. Now, I think this is a very important message, and for this I produced this movie, and I hope we will get an award for this. I hope we will get on Freedom Fest this year. Last year, I produced another film. You can Google it. If you, please take your cell phone and Google now, Life Behind the Berlin Wall. Life Behind the Berlin Wall. You can get it for free on the internet. It's about East and West Germany, and you should give it to your friends. Now we have 200,000 viewers. We have subtitles in, I think, 14 languages, also in Poland. It's important, especially for young people, to show what socialism means, not in theory, but in practice. And here I have 2 books. Here with Balcerowicz wrote the preface. It's also published now in 14 languages. The German title is Capitalism is not the problem, but the solution. This is another book, How to Become Rich. Who want to have a book? Here, why are you so shy here in Poland? I do it everywhere in the world. No, I will not come to you. Okay, so this is for you. The other ones can get the book later, directly after my presentation, and I think also in 12th and pros, all my books are outside there and I can sign the books for you. But first of all, thank you for listening to me, and we have 10 minutes time for your questions, but first of all, thank you. Now it's time on you for questions.
Does it work? Yeah, okay. Hi. So thanks for the presentation. The one thing I caught in this is, what do you think about the Oppenheimer's, the quote saying that there are 2 ways for human interaction, economical and political? Do you recognize the quote?
Can you speak a little bit louder? I don't know.
Yeah. There was this, I think Franz Oppenheimer said that there are two modes of interaction between humans, economical and political, where the economical one is where you convince another human to do something for you by convincing them with, for example, money or something else. And political is that you threat with violence, right? You use the threat of violence to achieve to make another human do something. So he considered it the political way of interaction with other humans. And I was surprised about, there was this accusation against capitalism in one of the slides where people said that because of a capitalism, the rich people can buy the politicians, right?
Yes.
But the existence of the politician is actually anti-capitalist, right?
because like the political system is it's the opposite pole of the spectrum, right?
Okay, if you have a very libertarian view, seems so you have this, there should be no politicians, but even if you have politicians, if someone tells me there's corruption, I think if some people tell me there are rich people who bribe politicians, I tell them, okay, then you should separate the economy from politics. This is my message. If you think there are too many lobbyists, if you think there's too much corruption, separate both of them. I was in Georgia last year, and I spoke with the Professor Chia there, who was one of the leading free market economists, and we spoke about how they fought corruption in Georgia. And he told me, first we fired from one day to the other 70,000 policemen, and the other thing, we got rid of so many regulations, because every new regulation is a new reason for lobbyists or even for people to bribe politicians. So get rid of regulations. In the last years, we have more and more laws, more and more regulations in Poland. I think you should get rid of a lot of these regulations. Next question, please. Here.
I just want
wait, we have only five minutes.
Okay, so
there's one lady there with a question, I think, there. You can also, if you like, you can also ask in Polish and someone will translate it to me. No problem.
Hello, my name is Katarzyna Duda. You said that you don't care about inequalities, but you care about poverty.
Yes.
And what do you think, which tool is better to fight with poverty? Is it minimum wage or is it unconditional basic income? And I think that here in Poland we really need minimum wage regulations, because 10 years ago I've got friends and family that earned €1 per hour, and it wasn't decent wage. So how should we fight with this problem of poverty? Thank you.
Thank you. I look what happened in history, and you can see in Poland. Poland was, in socialist times, one of the poorest countries in Europe. The GDP per capita was half of Czech Republic. Poland was even poorer than Ukraine in socialist times. A lot of people don't know it. Since 25 years, Poland is Europe's growth champion. Of course, not everything is perfect. Of course, there are also poor people here. But you see what helps against poverty. Capitalism helps against poverty. And this is true. I gave you the example from China. I gave you the example from Vietnam. You see here the example in Poland. And this is everywhere in the world. Nowhere in the world poverty was abolished by state regulation, by minimum wages or something like this. The only thing that worked everywhere in the world was capitalism. I think you see it here in Poland that it worked. If you compare Poland in the socialist times and Poland today. So I think this is the real secret. What helps against poverty is capitalism and more capitalism. And if you introduce minimum wages and something like this, maybe in the first glance it seems to help, but in the long run it doesn't help the people. You will get more people jobless. A lot of people will not get their jobs, especially young people will not have opportunity to get new jobs. So these are things that doesn't help. What helps is capitalism. This is my opinion about the topic. Next question. Yes.
Okay, so if there's 49% of people that actually support something like capitalism, even if they don't know it, that's capitalism. I'm talking about Poland right now. So why there's a political party in Poland that scores more than 50% of seats in a parliament and rules this country, with no free markets reforms, and they're doing are spending money and redistributing goods by just giving the people that were poorer before, just like I don't know. There's a 500 Plus program that is for mothers that has children.
I understand. Good question.
Okay, that's
There's
all.
a contradiction. By the way, it's not 90% of Polish people, according to our polls, but it's a majority and more than in other countries. But I understood the questions. There's a ruling party who is, in a way, anti-capitalist, the Peace Party, and there are so many people pro-capitalism. Why is that? First of all, what's the percentage, according to the last polls, for Peace Party in Poland? Pardon? Okay, 30% is not 90% or 100%. And I think even some supporters, of course, we have another very interesting poll about social envy, how envious are people, and we found out, I will publish in a book, that the most envious people you find with supporters of this party, of this Peace Party in Poland. We have a poll about this. In a way, it is a contradiction, but I tell people always, yes, it's the ruling party, but they have not 50%, not 60, not 70. In fact, now they have something like 30%. And these are the polls. Maybe there are even some people who say, I'm pro-capitalism, and they vote for this party. What is crazy? You should tell them, if you are pro-capitalism, it's the wrong party. But there are a lot of other reasons, maybe conservative values as nation or family or religion and some other reasons. People, of course, economical views are important thing for voting, but it's not the only reason why people vote. But the main message is here, what I want to tell you. I know in every country, people believe we are the most envious, we are the most anti-capitalist, because compared with you here, I think there are a lot of people who don't like capitalism. But if you compare it with other countries, it's positive. And I think you should be proud about this. And the most important message that you should tell people, you should tell them about how it was in socialism, against this nostalgia, how it was in the planned economy, how it was with ration cards. What did it mean? How, for example, if you look also this film about East and West Germany, this is the same. I don't want to speak about Poland now because I come from Germany. Maybe you can guess here, how long did it take to get a car in East Germany? Who has an idea? How long did it take? Do you have an idea? Pardon? 3 years? Another one? 15? It was the shortest time, 12 and a half years, the longest 17 years. When I ask people, they don't know it. Or what do you think, what was the percentage of people who had a telephone in East Germany in 1989? In West Germany, it was 99%. What do you think, how many were in East Germany? No, it was more, it was 16%. I think in Poland it was 14%, especially party members, of course, who could get a car. And by the way, if you waited 17 years for a car, what did you get? The worst car in the world. East Germany was famous for producing the Trabi, what was the worst, especially very bad for the environment. Or another fact, if you compare East and West Germany, 27% of people in East Germany had to share their toilet with other people. They didn't have their own toilet. Not in the 50s, not in the 60s, not in the 70s, but 1989. In West Germany, 99% had their own toilet. And so this is what I do. I compare things that you can compare, like East and West Germany, or Poland in socialist times, Poland today. The trick from anti-capitalists is they compare their utopia, their vision with reality. And I think this is not fair. It would be the same, for example, maybe, are you married? So if you come home today and your wife will tell you, we have to talk about divorce, you would be surprised? Not so much. Hopefully you would be surprised. Okay, let's imagine we do surprised. But I can tell you what happened. his wife started to read these romantic love novels about perfect love, where they kiss every morning at breakfast, and then she compared your real-life marriage with a book. You would say, hey, it's not fair. Please compare our marriage with this of our friends. But this is what socialists do. They compare a book, a utopia, with a reality. And I say, stop, I don't discuss about this. I compare things that you can compare, like East and West Germany, or like Poland in socialist times and Poland today. I'm very happy to be here. I think this is, in this year and the last year, the 10th time I'm in Poland. I love it very much to be here. It's not far from me, from Germany, whether I go from Berlin to Frankfurt or from Berlin to Warsaw. At the same time, it's only for 1 hour. I will be back here next time in 2 years, if you invite me, and I promise, this time I forgot it, next time I will have my t-shirt, I love capitalism. Who agrees? I love capitalism. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And don't forget, I'll be out now. Sign some of these books. Give it to your friends. Don't give it to anti-capitalists. They won't read these books. They prefer to read book number 35, Why Capitalism is Evil. They don't touch a book like this. I have it on Facebook. When I post my book, there are a lot of left-leaning people. This is all bullshit in this book. This is all wrong. And then I ask always, but have you read the book? No, I wouldn't read a book like this. So, no, give it to your friends who are pro-capitalism to support them with all the arguments that they need. I'll be outside now to sign the books. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be back. You will see me outside. Thank you.